Welcome to the LDS Mental Health Podcast. This is a podcast for faithful women who want healing in their relationships, guidance from God, and internal peace. Each week, you'll hear mental health concepts taught through a spiritual lens from me, a licensed clinical mental health counselor, to help you start thinking in a higher and holier way. Welcome. On this episode, we will be discussing 5 ways to be mentally strong. All right, we're kicking off for the month of October talking about becoming mentally strong. We have some really good episodes this month. We're going to be talking about codependency, using Christ as an anchor to your mental health, and combating seasonal depression, which is probably setting in for some here pretty soon. So, for the first episode this month, I want to talk about 5 ways you can become mentally strong. So, let's just dive in. One of the first things that really threatens our mental strength is trials and opposition. And really for good reason too, right? Trials are often unexpected and really unplanned for. They can really rock your whole world in lots of ways. But the truth is, trials just aren't as unexpected as we think. We live in a fallen world by design, and that means that there's opposition around every corner. What makes you more mentally strong when facing these challenges is to start embracing opposition. I love what Sister Michelle Craig said about this concept in her talk titled Wholehearted. She said, when your faith, your family, and your future are challenged, when you wonder why your life is hard, when you're doing your best to live the gospel, remember that the Lord told us to expect troubles. Troubles are a part of the plan and do not mean you've been abandoned. They are part of what it means to be His. He was, after all, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. That quote kind of makes me emotional to think that when we expect troubles and embrace opposition, we're becoming more acquainted to knowing what it's like to be the Savior. Learning to implement embracing opposition into your life will strengthen you mentally for future opposition. Another way to strengthen yourself mentally is to increase stillness in your life. To quote Elder Bednar from April's General Conference talk, let's consider a higher and holier dimension of stillness in our lives. I loved that talk. He gave it in conference just last time, and if you haven't had a chance to go listen to it, go listen to it. And if you have listened to it, re-listen to it. It's jam-packed with gold nuggets. He also said being still may be a way of reminding us to focus upon the Savior unfailingly as the ultimate source of the spiritual stillness of the soul that strengthens us to do and overcome hard things. I also love in his talk that he encourages us to increase stillness as a way to anchor ourselves to our spiritual foundations, to the rock of our Redeemer. Stillness can look different in lots of situations, so seeking out opportunities to become reverent with the Lord is invaluable to your mental strength, especially in a world that has chaos and loudness all around. And speaking of chaotic and loud, that kind of brings up the next point of becoming mentally strong. In this world of opposition, chaos, and never-ending to-do lists, there's no way we can do it all alone. In fact, we weren't meant to do it alone. In the words of Emily Bell Freeman, she said, "The Savior was sent to help us overcome." He's there to help us with anything we need in our lives, but we have to be willing to ask. But not only ask Him, but also ask those around you. Sometimes you'll ask God for help and then decline the person who shows up to help. Or maybe you ask God for help and He prompts you to ask someone else for help, but you might feel like asking for help puts that burden on someone else. And I get it. It's difficult to ask for help, but you can't do this life alone. Let God help you. Let the people in your life help you. And if need be, let mental health professionals help you. And not only let them help you, seek out help. Look for and ask for help. That's how you stay mentally strong. Okay, now for the 4th way to be mentally strong, which is to set and keep boundaries. Boundaries are necessary to teach people how to treat you, be able to love yourself while you're with others, take care of yourself, stay emotionally well, and feel safe. But setting and keeping boundaries can be difficult, especially if you're struggling mentally. Learning to identify what areas of your life need boundaries, setting specific boundaries in those areas, and having rehearsed statements to make when you set those boundaries might need to be a prayerful process. You also might need some professional help to sort through some of those difficult situations that need boundaries. But once you learn the concepts and you're able to keep them, you really protect your mental well-being from being weakened. All right, now for the last way to become mentally strong. This has to do with all the emotions we build up and store throughout our day. And emotions are not meant to be stored. They're not meant to keep around for later. When you do this, you create this volcano effect of pressure, and this pressure builds until it needs releasing. And often those emotions come out at times and in places you don't want them to. So learning to process emotions is what will keep you mentally strong. Processing emotions and passing through them rather than keeping them in is an example the Savior gave us in the Garden of Gethsemane. He really didn't want to pass through all that everyone had experienced. In fact, in Matthew 26:9, it says, "And he went a little further, and he fell on his face, and he prayed, saying, 'O my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt.'" The Savior understood what needed to happen. He needed to pass through everything to help succor all that will feel these emotions and burdens in this fallen world. He is the one that can help you pass through and process the emotions that are building pressure inside of you. If you don't learn to process emotions with the Savior, you will continue to feel the pressure build inside of you, which will affect your mental well-being and those around you. It really is worth your time and effort to learn the skill of processing emotions connected to the Savior. All right, there you have it. 5 ways to be mentally strong: embracing opposition, increasing stillness, seeking help, setting and keeping boundaries, and processing emotions. And if you're wondering how to implement some of these skills and put them into your daily practice, I'm actually holding the first annual LDS Mental Health Skills Conference on November 22nd and 23rd, just to teach you those skills. At this 2-day virtual conference, you will learn strategies and skills for managing holiday stress, setting and keeping boundaries, self-compassion, and stillness. You're also going to learn about to-do list overwhelm and create a sustainable self-care plan, and learn to process negative emotions. This is going to be a jam-packed conference with mental health skills taught through a spiritual lens to fortify your mental health for future challenges. Also, to help you apply these skills after the conference, I'm going to include 1-year access to the recordings of all the sessions and a PDF workbook that includes a year-long plan for application of these skills you learned. To register for this conference, click the link in the show notes and be sure to use the discount code MHSC25 for 25% off your ticket. All right, I'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to the LDS Mental Health Podcast. I hope you were able to find ways of healing, guidance, and peace. If you liked this episode, please share it with a friend who would love to start thinking in a higher and holier way as well. Or hit that follow button so you don't miss out on any episodes. Also, check out the links in my show notes for other episodes you might like and links for other mental health resources on my website.